jurors that were ultimately seated on the jury. Rick Chow was found not guilty in the murder of Cyrus, and that's got a lot of people talking. That's got some controversy surrounding that as well. And Cassie, in a response to one of these lawsuits that was filed by one of the S workers her and the diddler used to mess with, put in there that she no longer resides in the US. So after the Diddy trial, she hightailed it out of the US and she's living somewhere else. Where she is living was not disclosed, but she said, I don't want to deal with y'all no more. So we got some stories we need to get into. Let's get into Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony is a student that was out in Frisco, Texas. And this incident that occurred that brought him to this trial happened in 2025. And it was between him and another teen by the name of Austin Metcalf. There was another teen involved, which is Austin Metcalf's twin. But in this particular instance, Austin Metcalf lost his life in the interaction that he had with Karmelo Anthony. The question that has arisen since this case came onto everybody's radar is what happened in that tent that caused these two young men to get into an altercation that ultimately resulted in Austin losing his life. I want to start out with saying it is very unfortunate that Austin lost his life. I feel for his family. Was a teenager, did not get a chance to graduate from high school, did not get a chance to fully live his life. I am not sure why Karmelo had the item that he had with him that caused Austin to lose his life. I'm not sure if he had had any previous fears or situations. I mean, he is in Texas, so that's possible anything could go down there, but I'm not exactly sure why he had that. But for whatever reason, he felt that he needed to go to that level to protect himself. And it ultimately ended up causing him to lose his life. And for that, I do feel bad. I do hope that you rest in peace. It's my understanding that he passed away in his twin's arms. And I'm sure that was very traumatizing for his twin and very upsetting for his parents. With that being said, just taking the situation on the surface, I still feel that Karmelo deserves to have a fair trial. And my concern with Karmelo not having anybody black on the jury is, can he get a fair trial in Texas? With the whole hype that's gone on with this case, race has played a role, unfortunately. I personally do not believe that race was playing a role in Karmelo Anthony taking the action that he did, and in Austin Metcalf taking the action that he did against Karmelo Anthony. I don't think race had anything to do with it. One just happens to be black and the other happens to be white. I don't think that there was anything more to that than the fact that they just happened to be that. I think it was two young men who were probably had a lot of adrenaline pumping, a lot of testosterone. You're at a game, you're at a competition. This is a person from a different school. Everybody's energy is kind of heightened. It was raining. I think there was a lot of things going on there, and these are young men who don't know how to work through things otherwise, maybe than using some type of physical interaction because you're still learning, still developing in the front of your brain. And sadly, that ended up with one of them losing their life. And it could end up causing Carmelo to seriously impact his, where he may be going to jail for a very long time. So this trial has got nationwide attention, and we're going to talk about what day one was like, because today was day one, and they did have their opening statements. So the fact that there's no black jurors on here is one of the things that I have been hearing a lot of commentary on. And the case, there was three that were potential jurors. There were three black females that were potential jurors. However, they were stricken. They were educators, and I believe they were in the same district that these two young men were going to school in. Because even though they did not go to the same school, they were in the same school district, which is why the tournament that was going on, they all included both of their schools. And they were stricken for that purpose. I don't believe that that was the sole purpose. I believe it was because they may have felt that these jurors were going to be more sympathetic towards Carmelo and they wanted to kind of eliminate any of that potential. To take a quick pause here for some comments. Frank, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. So Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf are at this track meet in 2025, and it's raining pretty hard from this opening statements that were done today, it's my understanding that there was not an actual tent for the school that Carmelo goes to. But in this instance of what happened, Carmelo went into the tent for the school that Austin Metcalf and his brother goes to. And I'm sorry, his brother's name escapes me right now. I'll look that up shortly. And they were in the tent. Apparently, it was pouring down rain. Carmelo went into this tent. Something happened between those boys, and Carmelo ended up pulling out an item that caused Austin Metcalf to lose his life, and he allegedly passed away in his twin brother's arms. And then Carmelo ran out of this tent after this occurred, and he was arrested and he was charged with the murder of Austin Metcalf. He did pass away, and sadly, if his twin did see that, sadly, his twin had to experience that. And sure, that's a loss for his family, and that's just going to be difficult. It's going to take time. There's not really anything I can say. I have children, and I hope to never know what that feels like. So my heart definitely goes out to them. And Austin's family, anything they may be experiencing. And my heart also goes out to Carmelo Anthony's family, who didn't do anything, but is also catching the backlash from the actions of him. And they're just kind of caught up in the whirlwind. That's their son, that's their brother, nephew, whatever their relationship may be. So I don't expect them to turn their back on them, but I feel bad for them having to experience different things that they were. I think it was the point at which the dad had to leave his job because he was getting harassed there. Carmelo's younger sister was getting harassed. The mom was getting harassed. And to me, that was just terrible because they did not do anything. They weren't responsible for it. They weren't even there. So to make it difficult for these people to live their life for something they weren't even a part of, that I'm sure if they could have stopped, they would have, I just thought was really tacky. And we have to kind of keep that energy with the people who are doing stuff and not with people who are just living their lives that happen to be related to them. But this trial, I just know is going to always have heightened tension to it, and it's just so unfortunate. I think part of what really is going to go on here is going to get lost in the aspects of focusing on the fact that one of the people involved, the defendant, is black and the person who passed away is white. We'll see how much that plays a role in this because we're going to be hearing testimony from some of the kids that were there. It's my understanding there was also surveillance video that shows either what happened or shows right after. So there is some video that they're also going to see related to this. So this trial, I'm sure, is not going to be cut and dry. Let's get into some of these things that have occurred here with these opening statements. Now, do you think the jury makeup will become an appeal issue? Do you think the fact that there's not any black jurors on there is an issue and could impact his ability to get a fair trial? Let me know what you think on that. We're definitely going to follow this case here when it initially occurred. I said I'm going to follow this case because I really want to see where it goes, and I really want to know what happened between the two. I don't know if Carmelo's going to get up there and testify. And honestly, I think if he has a good lawyer, his lawyer is going to tell him not to because he's young. And I just don't think he'll know how to conduct himself up there and could end up getting put into a corner that's going to mess him up. So I think he's probably not likely to testify, but we will find out as this trial goes on. But you can get your updates here. So make sure you have your notifications on and you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out. All right, let's get into this. Prosecutors on Carmelo Anthony case fought victim for 4 minutes before poking this person, poking them to their deletion. And work with me here. We're on YouTube, so we got to use some creative wording. This is an article from TMZ, so we're going to react to it together. Carmelo Anthony fought Austin Metcalf for 4 minutes under a tent at a Texas high school track meet before fatally poking him. At least that's what prosecutors say the surveillance video shows. So 4 minutes. I know it probably doesn't seem like a long time, but it is a long time. If you put on a timer for 4 minutes, it's probably going to last longer than you think it does. But that's quite a bit of time to be tussling. But that tells me if they were initially fighting, why did it escalate from there? Because if it would have just stayed there, we wouldn't even know either one of them right now. So I got to get some water. But we're going to see What else has come out here? This trial has got to be one of the top trials I was looking forward to. Like I was looking forward to the Diddy trial last year. This is like right up there with that because I really want to see how Texas is going to handle this. I know the world is watching, and I can't say I have a whole lot of faith in them. I'm gonna be honest. All right, let's get back into this article. Jurors were shown footage that appears to show one person shoving another person under the tent at the 2025 track meet where Austin was poked. Prosecutors say it's Karmelo and Austin in the video, even though you can't see their faces. Well, then how do you know it's them? They say this goes on for 4 minutes before a person who they claim is Karmelo is seen running from that tent towards the exit. And I do remember early on when the story came out, they said he was running out of the tent and he's probably scared, shocked. I don't know what was going through his mind. Um, but I'm waiting to hear. The state called Mark Porter, a forensic video analyst who worked for the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office, as their first witness during cross-examination. The defense mentioned you can't pick up on mouth or head movements in the video since it's made up of a series of still images from a distance. And Porter agreed. Defense attorney Toby Shook then asked, quote, "You really can't tell what people are doing under the tent, can you?" End quote. Porter agreed again. Carmelo's murder trial kicked off this week after a bunch of jurors were dismissed because of age and racial bias. And there are no Black jurors on the jury. We've reported Carmelo has pleaded not guilty. If convicted, he could face life in prison. So let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think that he could have a fair trial if there is no Black jurors on the jury in Texas? And I do think it's relevant that it's the state of Texas. They are a red state, and I know Texas has its thing. I've personally never been, but I do have family from there, and it's not for me. It's not for me. I will say that. I'm sure it's a beautiful state, not my type of vibe. And let's get into this next one here. Prosecutors, this article from TMZ, prosecutors point to a fatal dare before the poking. So prosecutors say surveillance video will show Carmelo Anthony wasn't trying to avoid trouble at the Texas high school track meet that turned into, unfortunately, one person losing their life. He was looking forward to it. Now that may be a little bit of a stretch or perception, but let's see where they're going with this. That's the message jurors heard Thursday as opening statements got underway in Anthony's murder trial over the fatal poking of fellow teen Austin Metcalf, which is this young man here. Collin County prosecutor Bill Worski told the jury the case boils down to what they will see on surveillance footage from the scene, saying the video tells the story. According to prosecutors, witnesses heard Anthony tell Metcalf, quote, "Touch me, see what happens," end quote, after a dispute erupted inside a team tent. The state argues those words weren't a warning, they were an invitation. Again, I think that that's perception, but let me know. Do you think saying that, if he did indeed say, "Touch me, see what happens," do you think that that is an invitation or was it a warning? Worski told jurors that evidence will show Anthony provoked and goaded Metcalf into making physical contact and then escalated the confrontation by pulling a knife and poking the 17-year-old in the chest. Prosecutors described the unaliving as a senseless schmurder and says witness testimony, video evidence, and Anthony's actions after the stabbing will support their version of events. So this testimony that they're going to have from people who were around and what they heard and what the surveillance video is, I don't think we're going to see the surveillance video, at least as of right now. It's my understanding that's not going to be made public. But if it is made public, we will definitely talk about it on here. And I will be watching that the moment that drops and it comes across my radar here. But I think they're really trying to maintain the integrity of this case and not have too much come out. And I think it's probably for the best because I don't know that there's any winners in this case. No matter what happens, there's going to be a side that's going to be unhappy, feel that things weren't done fairly or something wasn't taken into consideration. Two young men lost their lives. Even though one is still alive, his life will never be the same. If he does get off, and is not in, if he is not found guilty and is able to get off, his life will never be the same. And I'm not comparing him to OJ, but I'm making a point of OJ was not convicted criminally for the murder of his wife. And Ron Goldman, however, it wasn't like he was well received. He could not step back into his normal life. People always looked at him different. He was going to be shunned. There was going to be a set of people that believed he did it, whether he was convicted or not. And that was going to impact whether or not they were going to work with him again. He never reached that level that he was. He wasn't getting that kind of attention for business. People weren't wanting to be associated with him. So he had his freedom. He technically wasn't convicted. However, his life was never the same, and he was always going to be a pariah or a demon to people, period. And that's the way they felt about him up until the day he passed. Some people were happy about that. He just never got back to what he was before when people loved him. And I'm feeling the same way for Karmelo. I think no matter what happens, there's going to be a set of people that are going to be upset, not like him, and blame them. And I think it's going to be a challenge for him. May have to move somewhere else and start over if he is able to get off. But I do think he was a young man that made a mistake. I don't think he had the intent on taking the life of Austin Metcalf. And I'm just hoping that he is able to get a fair trial and that they are not trying to railroad or take away his ability and his right to have a fair trial. But we will be monitoring that here. And if you do want to get your updates on that, make sure you have your notifications on and you are subscribed to the channel. We'd love to have you a part of the Aries crew. And now we're going to move on to Rick Chow. So this case was one I was not familiar with until I recently heard a verdict that this gentleman was found not guilty. And I didn't hear about this particular case when it occurred, but due to this verdict, it has definitely come onto my radar. So Rick Chow owned a business. Still have to see where this business was located, but a young man by the name of Cyrus went into his establishment and he had picked up some waters, it's my understanding, but then he ended up putting those waters down and did not buy those waters. And he left this store, but for whatever reason, this particular store owner and his son thought that this person had stole from them. And it's a 14-year-old boy. His name was Cyrus, and unfortunately, he lost his life in going to that store. But he was chased outside of that store by the store owner and his son. And according to the store owner, he thought that his son's life was in danger or that this person was going to do something to his son. And that's when he broke out the pow pow and took this young man's life. And people don't feel that it's right that he was able to get off. It kind of brought back memories to some who remember Latasha Harlins. And that was all a part of what kind of got mainly attributed to the LA riots was the Rodney King verdict, but some of that tension was also from Latasha Harlins losing her life prior, and I believe it was a Korean shop owner that took her life, believing that she was stealing and she wasn't trying to steal no orange juice and just took her life. And that was it. And she ended up not getting any jail time on that. And that really upset people because it just feels like you could take out young Black children and there's no consequence. Their life is of no value. Are you immediately going to say that they're criminals and that they deserve it and they don't get the benefit of the doubt when other cultures just get to say, oh, well, they're learning, they're teens, they're going to make mistakes. But when it comes down to people of color, they're just automatically criminals. They don't get the same grace or learning curve that others get. And sadly, he lost his life. 14 is really young. You haven't even really lived yet, even though at that time you think you have. So let's get into this story. The kicker was that Rick Chow's attorney was Black. So I thought that was pretty interesting, a little twist there. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I think that that gave a look. And we'll kind of see how that goes and see if that's discussed here in the story. This is from CNN. A South Carolina jury on Monday found a store owner not guilty of murder in the 2023 shooting of 14-year-old Black male. The jury returned the verdict for Rick Chow, 61, who is Asian, who pow-powed Cyrus Carmack Belton in the back after chasing him in the back after chasing him from the convenience store in Colombia, but maintained he acted to defend his son. And this is the son he was defending. This is him at trial testifying. The Schmurder sent waves of anguish and grief through the African American community in Richland County, where nearly half the population is Black. After the verdict was read, sobs and cries of distress can be heard coming from the Carmack Belton's family seated in the gallery. Chow sat silently frozen before slowly bowing his head into his interlocked hands. This is a photo I got of the family's, reaction here, and you could just see the hurt in that face. Like, baby is gone, and then that's it. That's all she wrote. Let me know your thoughts on this. Do you think that verdict was fair, that he was not found guilty, or do you think that he profiled this young man and that only occurred because he was Black? If he was any other ethnicity, they may not have wanted to follow him out of the store or may not have even found any of his actions a threat. We'll never know because it didn't go down any other way, but I tend to believe the other way, that may not have gone down the way it did if that person was not Black. We're getting back into the story here. Prosecutors and defense lawyer in closing arguments painted different pictures. The 2023 powing prosecutor said Chow acted in anger because he wrongfully thought the teen had stolen 4 bottles of water from the store. A defense lawyer said Chow fired to defend his son only after the teen pointed a pow at him. Quote, this case is not about a shoplifter. This case is about a father who sees a pow pointed at his son and had to make a decision, end quote. Defense attorney Sean Kent told jurors during closing arguments. The defense attorney said Andrew Chow testified that Carmack Belton pointed a pow at him. Prosecutors acknowledged Carmack Belton had a semi-automatic pow, but I don't know why he would have a semi-automatic pow here. That was he was a young man, so I don't know why he's carrying that. But they say it fell on the ground during the chase, and he never threatened anyone with it. So maybe when he fell, it slipped out, and they go, "Oh, he's got it," and they thought it was going to be something, but it was just because he fell and it slipped out. But having it to begin with was not good. But I don't think having it to begin with and it falling out of your pocket when you're running and you fell should have warranted that, unless it was literally pointed at you and it was you do it or they were going to do it to you. We don't know because we weren't there. I don't think that's how it went down, though. I think the kid was probably scared, ran and fell and tripped, and it fell out of his pocket. Prosecutors say Child chased the teen more than 130 yards from the store. Now, look, if I ran a store and you got to buy everything, you got that overhead, you got to keep your store up, the security, all that good stuff. I get it. It is not cheap and it is wrong for people to steal from you. I totally get it. I'm not okaying it. I am saying I'm not losing my life and I'm not taking somebody else's life over 4 water bottles. If this person did take 4 water bottles, which they did not, just want to make that clear, he did not actually take anything from this man's store or steal anything at all. But even if he did, at most, what is the water bottle hitting for? $3, $4? We'll say $4. So if you took 4 water bottles, that was $16. You're going to take somebody's life over $16. You're going to chase them 130 yards outside of your store after they have left. This threat, this shoplifter, this bad person has left your store. But not only did they leave, you take yourself on after them, and you and your son is chasing after them. I believe the wife was too, but I'm not 100% sure about the wife. But the son and the dad was chasing this young man outside the store. He's already gone. What are you chasing them for 130 yards? And then it starts popping off at 130 yards when you could have just stayed yourself on in the store when the person who was the threat, the aggravation was already gone. So I'm failing to understand why you had to step outside the store. I'd be thinking, thank God they're gone. We could keep it moving. If he stayed in the store, I could see if something would have down, but he left. I'm very confused. But y'all tell me, would you chase somebody 130 yards that had left your store over 4 water bottles? Do you think you would take somebody's life over taking 4 water bottles out your store? To me, it just don't make no sense. That it's not equal. It's not equal. It's not millions of dollars of jewelry. It's not some precious piece of art from ancient whatever that you can't find anywhere. It's 4 water bottles. Mm-mm. The law is funky. The law is really and truly funky. But let me know your thoughts on this one. May he rest in peace. My heart goes out to them. Sorry to your family. Sorry for that loss. Very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. Now we're going to keep it moving on over to Cassie. So Cassie, wow, she's probably having just a very interesting last few years. So, you know, when she came out and dropped that lawsuit on Diddy, that was the worst day and the start of his downfall. And his life hasn't been the same ever since, and neither has hers. So when that Diddy trial happened last year, and we heard out of her mouth some of the things she was putting in her mouth or letting people do in her mouth, whew, it was so nasty. It was just so nasty. I couldn't. And I don't blame her for leaving after that. I don't know that I could go on there and say that kind of stuff, that I was doing that kind of stuff, or let people do that kind of stuff to me and know that that's about to live out there forever. My kids could see that. Lord have mercy. I was embarrassed for her. And I just felt so nasty for her. So I'm not getting sores in her mouth from the stuff that guys were doing. And it was just, it was too much. But her husband stood by her, and kudos to him. That's a keeper, Cassie, because your husband can hear that kind of stuff. Your guys get up there and testify about you paying for their services and the stuff you did with them and Diddy, and he stuck by you. And man, that's a keeper. Alex, you are a keeper. Kudos to you for sticking by her and being understanding, because I'm just not sure how many guys can stand by and hear that kind of stuff, and we're still good. But they hightailed it out of the U.S. after that Diddy trial. She got that money, honey. She said, "Thank you, Diddy, for the 20 million." She blasted him and his freaky weirdness. So she did that on out the door. She took that money and left, and then the hotel settled with her for 10 million. So she got 30 million altogether. And she said hotel gave her 10 million for allegedly covering it up, giving the video to Diddy. And that's the video that got released on CNN where we saw him actually physically having an altercation with her. So that's how she got that money. And then she got on up out of here after she did her testimony. Let's get into this from TMZ. Cassie moved out of America at some point after being paid 20 million from Diddy over his alleged putting hands on her. And Cassie says she's got no plans of moving back. And I don't blame you, girlie. I don't blame you. There wasn't a lot going on that was good for you here, and that was just a lot that we got to know you for. So yeah, I don't blame you. Take a break. TMZ obtained a court declaration dated May 1st, 2026, and filed by Cassie in her ongoing lawsuit against male escort Clayton Howard, where she states, quote, "I reside outside the United States and I do not intend to move back to the United States," end quote. You come on in, like the video. It's a free way to support the channel. It goes a long way and it means a lot. Really, really appreciate that. And the declaration was filed in connection with the suit Howard filed against Cassie and Diddy in California. No word on exactly where Cassie's living abroad, but she says it would be easier for her to attend court and other legal proceedings in New York, where her lawyers are, rather than California. As we reported, Clayton claimed Diddy and Cassie hired him to get their freak on, and we all know about the freak offs that Diddy's was well known for, which he says ended with him getting some stuff that he contracted from messing around with them. He says he also got her pregnant, but she did not keep the child, is what he alleges. Clayton was one of 7 escorts who worked with prosecutors on Diddy's criminal case. In the lawsuit, he claimed Diddy and Cassie subjected him to horrific sexual abuse that left him with physical and psychological injury. So do you think Cassie and Diddy were doing too much? Do you think he was an actual victim of them versus her being a victim? Very interesting concept. Let me know if you want me to follow that lawsuit, and we definitely will. Thank you so much for watching. This is our trial Thursday, so we're going to try and cover any trials or updates. We will be following the Carmelo Anthony trial, so make sure if you are interested in getting those updates and making sure he gets a fair trial in Texas, subscribe to the channel and follow, hit that notification bell. We'd love to have you a part of the Aries crew. We'll see you on Friday. We're going to go live again. We're going to be starting our weekend off right. And don't forget, on Mondays, we're doing Messy Mondays. So we'll see you on next Monday as well. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. And we'll see you later. Take care.